everyone, it's Jimmy. So today I wanted to share a really special snowboard with you guys, and it's this 1983 Burton Performer Experimental Series. So this is a very special board, not only because it's old and it's rare, but because there's an awesome story behind this board. These old boards, they're like time capsules, they tell a story, and this board right here has a very special story. So I named the video The Best Snowboard Ever because it represents what snowboarding is all about. So the 83 Burton Performer, it was the first production snowboard with 2 bindings. I don't know if you guys saw my shorts video, but I made a video about this board and I kind of explained what it was all about. Burton described this as the snowboard for the serious rider. And they said that because it was made for tricks, for jumps, for powder riding. So I purchased this snowboard from the family of a man whose name is Peter Seminara. So Peter was an early Burton Rep in the 80s, and he was around when snowboarding wasn't the most popular thing, and it wasn't allowed on every mountain. Unfortunately, Peter passed away on August 14, 2022, and his collection went up for sale. Peter's goal was for one day to sell all his snowboards to pay for his kids' college. And so his family put up all his boards for sale, and I was very interested in this board. I reached out to his wife and his brother Dave, and I was able to purchase the board from them. So after I purchased this board, Peter's story started to come together and I started to learn more about him. So I'm gonna take you back about 2 years. It was about March 2021. I traveled to South Carolina to take a wood turning class, and I met some incredible people that were in the class. We had a really small group. And while I was there, I met this guy, Greg. And during our break, he asked me one day, like, hey, what do you do for fun? I told him, like, I love snowboarding. I snowboard a lot during the winter. It turns out that Greg was originally from Vermont, and he also loves snowboarding. One day Greg tells me, I have this very old Burton snowboard that I bought as a kid, and I remember telling him, like, hey man, if you ever sell it, I would love to buy it. At the time I wasn't collecting snowboards, but I knew that I wanted to own a very old Burton snowboard. So after the class, Greg and I stayed in touch, and one day he sends me a message and he says, hey, I'm back at my shop in Vermont. I want to show you a picture of my old snowboard. So he had a 1983 Burton Performer Experimental Series just like this one, and it was hanging like on the wall of his shop. And when I saw the picture of it, I was blown away by it because those experimental series, these blue boards, they're very rare. And so I sent him a message like, whoa, Greg, that's crazy that you own that board. That's an incredible board. And I asked him, like, why did you buy that 1983 Performer, like, as a kid? What drew your attention to it? Was it because it was blue and it looked awesome? Or was it the 2 bindings? And Greg told me, no, it was the 2 bindings. At the time, that back binding was like something really new because they used to use it like an old strap before. So that's why he chose to buy the experimental series. After I purchased the board from Peter Seminara's family, I sent Greg a picture of the board and I said, hey man, I also have an experimental series. I just bought this board. So Greg asked me like, hey, where'd you get the board? And I explained to him how I bought the board. And I sent Greg a picture of Peter Seminara sitting on a chairlift with Jake Burton. And I tell him, hey, like he was an old Burton Rep back in the early days. And Greg replies back, man, that guy looks so familiar to me. Shortly after, Greg replies back and he says, hey, by chance, is that guy's name Peter? And I said, yeah, his name is Peter Seminara. And he says to me, hey, I used to know him when I was younger. He was actually really good friends with my sister. So it turns out that Greg's sister was Jake Burton's assistant, and she was really good friends with Peter Seminara. Greg at the time was younger than Peter and his sister, and he remembers that Peter let him use an old Burton M6. It was a prototype that he had in his truck, and he let him use it for a full season. Greg also told me about Peter's old Astro van. That was an old Burton van. It had Burton all on the side of it. He said it was awesome. So I was blown away that my friend Greg actually knew Peter, and I was just like, man, what a small world this is. So let's fast forward to January 2023. So I head out to Colorado with some friends for a snowboard trip, and one of the nights I meet up with one of my friends who lives in Silverthorne. His name is Easy. He's a snowboard instructor in Breckenridge, and he's also one of Tommy Bennett's instructors at his summer camp. So he's a really good rider, really good person. I love the guy, such a good person. But I head out to his house to visit him, just to say hi. Easy knows that I like old snowboards, and he says to me, like, hey man, I have this old Burton snowboard that I used to race. Would you like to check it out? And I said, yeah, I'll check it out for sure, you know? So we head out to his garage, and he's got this old Burton Alpine race snowboard, like right in the rafters of his garage. I remember it was a red Burton board, and it had the sticker on it, and it was a sticker of an ant. And he says to me, have you ever heard of a guy named Peter Seminara? And I said, yeah, I actually bought a board, one of his old boards from his family. And he says to me, well, this ant sticker here that you see on the board, Peter used to put that on all his old Burton demo boards to tell them apart from other boards. And I said, really? That's insane, because I have another friend that just told me another story about Peter. He tells me that when he used to live in New Jersey, he used to work for Burton. So he used to work for a guy named Randy and for Peter, and he used to help them do demo days. So he used to set up snowboards for people to ride. Peter gave that snowboard to Eric for him to keep. So Easy still has that board, and he still has the hard boots that he used on that board, and they actually have Peter's initials on it, PS, on them. So that night I was just like, wow, this is like the craziest thing, that one man was connected to a couple of my friends that live in totally different states. But that showed how special Peter was. It showed that he made a difference in people's lives. He gave Easy a snowboard for him to race and to enjoy. And then he also made a difference in Greg's life and his sister's life, and they remembered him also. Snowboarding is such a small community, and this is what snowboarding represents, right? This snowboard right here, this is what it's all about. I'm sure we all have friends from different states, and somehow we're all connected to each other. So let me tell you what I've learned about Peter since I've purchased this board. I've learned that Peter lived life to the fullest, he took risks, and he did what he loved. And being an early Burton Rep proves that, right? Because being a rep at that time when snowboarding wasn't the most popular thing, he took that risk. He tried it out, he loved it, and he got a bunch of people on boards, demoing boards, letting people try them out. You can easily say that Peter was a snowboarding pioneer on the East Coast. Peter was also a big sports fan. He was a football player when he was younger, and he was a big Buffalo Bills fan. He wasn't afraid to go to the Meadowlands and taunt like the New York Jets fans, but he still had a lot of fun, and he was a very friendly guy. Peter also loved food, and he started his own pizza catering business that he named after his grandfather, Carmelo. I feel very lucky to own this snowboard, especially after hearing about Peter's story. I'm just gonna keep this one forever, and I'm gonna take really good care of it. I'm gonna leave a couple of links in the description of this video. That way you guys can learn more about Peter and get an idea of how cool this guy really was. If you would like to donate any money to Peter's Kids College Fund, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm gonna leave a link in the description for that as well. Peter is survived by his wife Yana, his kids Danny and Sammy, his 2 parents, and his 5 brothers. So this is it. Peter's old 1983 Burton Performer Experimental Series. Just a very, very cool board. And look how beautiful this board is right here. Peter took really good care of this board. It's minty on the bottom. So there's a story behind this board that I don't know. It's got these 2 things. They're almost like these 2 white things. They almost work like edges. I can take them off and the board will be fine, but I'm gonna keep them on. Peter had them on for a reason, and so I'm just gonna keep it like that. But very minty board, such good condition. Well, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please share it with other people. Please hit the like and please subscribe. I'm gonna be posting more vintage snowboard videos. There's not enough out there, and I would like to share these boards with you. They tell stories and they're amazing. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.